put those away. I mean, I would love never to do that again. But it's not going to stop. And new people are going to have to hear something like this. And now that it's in a sermon, Manny, make note of it in case it ever comes up. We know this is the sermon it was in. Peace Part 8, okay? So that we know if people are asking about these things, you can go and say, this is where these kind of things are addressed. It is part of the reality we live in. And so we have to learn how to behave and to live within that reality. This is called the Afterburn. This is where we take comments or questions about the teaching. My first comment is going to be that it's freezing in here, George, if you want to fix that for me, please. I was going to say that during the message, but, I didn't. We have it set to what it would be if we had 150 people in here and not 10 or 12, whatever we have with the camera crew. Okay, so Manny's going to start writing down comments and questions, and go ahead and ask those. So again, for you on live stream, this is not the time for social chit-chatting, okay? Let's instead make sure that we're allowing the space for Manny to get the comments and questions that are related to the teaching today, all right? Listen, this is a rough job. People think, well, I don't want to say anything and let Rabbi's head get too big. Some of you may think that's already happened, but the thing is, believe me, there's enough of this stuff all the time that every time you may think something is blowing it up too big, there are always people with giant pins planning to pop holes in it and step on it and bring it down. So it is exhausting because this distraction that's out there is preventing you from moving forward, or could cost you whatever benefit this ministry would have given you because you're going to go somewhere else. And I can't tell you, I really can't, the number of people that, two things. One, left after saying how much this is the place where they were getting everything, how they would never leave, and how many of them did it literally immediately after saying it publicly on live stream. I mean, people that said how there was no way they were going to miss services, even if their car broke down or some other thing happened, they were going to get here because this is where, and then all of a sudden they heard rumors about this or rumors about that. Next thing you know, they're out and they're smearing me all over their Facebook page. It's mind-blowing, the consistency with which that happens, Very few people that have left did not do that model. They first spouted and just were very effusive with their praise and how wonderful, and then only to just, out the door. Are you back in line there? Are you back ready to go? Well, if you're ready, you can go.
Brides of the Harvest just wants to say thank you for the transparency and honesty, Rabbi, of what you're going through. We now know how to pray for you specifically.
Well, thank you.
Somebody regarding peace, somebody wants to know, would reading chapters and verses from Psalms like Psalm 25, 46, and 91 be a good place to go for peace in general, or would these be out of context?
There's a lot of verses in the Psalms. I did not choose to bring too many of them into the teaching. There is actually some verses in Psalm 112 that I was going to use after we come out of Numbers 13. But there's a ton of encouraging things for peace in the Psalms. Absolutely read them. The problem is context is hard to bring about, and a lot of times it's King David talking specifically about people coming against him and the peace he has, knowing that Yah's in charge, etc. But you can extrapolate those things out for yourself as well, okay? But yes, there's a lot of peace that can be derived out of reading the Psalms. I was trying to think of the right word, but you can get a lot of peace from reading the Psalms.
R. Joy says, is Matthew chapter 18 about offenses also related to Leviticus 19:17 and Matthew 5:23 and 24?
Well, the Leviticus one is love your neighbor as yourself. The Matthew 18 is what happens when somebody sins against you or trespasses against you. And what was the other one? Matthew
5:23 and 24.
Yeah, I mean, those are all related, okay? That's where if you're, it says, if then you bring your gift to the altar. I'm going to cover that one, actually, in the teaching. So we're not there yet, but I will get to that one.
Okay.
Okay? Matthew 5. Basically, it talks about making peace first with your brother before you bring a gift. Okay? Okay.
Okay. Let's see. I'm trying to put.
Which, by the way, I could have added that to the confession that you would have had to make. I don't want to sound Catholic here, but you were supposed to say when you made your offering that you hadn't misused it. You might also have to have also said, by the way, I have peace with my brothers. I don't have aught against anybody. I mean, maybe we need to institute that. You need to come in, bring your tithes and offering, hand it directly. We have a few people that do that, by the way, that actually write on their checks, nothing has been tampered with, et cetera, with the tithes. You know, and for a really good example, Rabbi Tom, when he wants to make any offering or give anything, he wants to hand it directly to me. He wants me to know that he's doing what he's doing. He sets a great example with that. You know, even with the virtualness of it, if he's doing it online, he'll call me, which I'm just giving you praise, Rabbi Tom. I'm not picking on you at all. I mean, he wants to make sure that I know he's doing what he's supposed to be doing. And so I tell him he doesn't have to do that, but he does it for his own integrity, and that's great, you know? That's great. Oh, by the way, let me just give you another piece of integrity. There is something I will mention. This is something that will surprise you. I get a very small but reasonably, a good amount of money orders and checks that come in, and they're written to me. Okay? People send them in with my name on them. And I could, obviously, keep them. But I don't. We put them into the MTOI account. And you could check with the staff and they would tell you that. As a matter of fact, we get a pretty good sized chunk. You ready for this? Somebody mails us money orders that are not signed at all. They're not written to anybody. I could take all of those, and then we get like 20 at a time. And I could but we put them in the MTOI account. Now, the ones with my name on them, absolutely I could keep them. But I don't, because I know the person was meaning to support the ministry and what Yahweh's doing here. So that's an integrity thing. You would not know that. You would not know that all those, and there's not a lot, but there's more than you would think, okay? And they come in on a consistent basis. By the way, if you're doing that, please stop. Write MTOI on the checks. It just is easier. Okay? Not that it's a temptation, it's just I'm putting it in the right place with the right name on it and everything else, and it just makes it easier for our accounting, okay? Unless you are very specifically wanting, and write that in a letter with it, you want me to have it. Sometimes people just want to bless me for some reason. That's fine. Make sure you make that clear that you intend me to have that money. Okay? I don't expect that to happen ever. But if it does happen occasionally, I've had people walk up to me at a feast and just say, look, this is for you and your family. Go take your wife out to a nice dinner or something. I want you to have this. Don't put this in the box. That will happen once in a whenever. If you want to do that, that's fine. I'm not encouraging it. But you make that clear by putting a note that says that. Otherwise, my integrity is it goes in the MTOI account. All right? I bet you wouldn't have known that. But this happens, by the way, every week we get one or two things that either have my name on it or no, whatever, and we just put it in the account. All right? All right. Go ahead, Manny.
I'm lumping these two questions together because I'm pretty sure you can deal with them both. One person says, it is very hard for most people to not be a part of the world. Gossip and backbiting. Any suggestions? And the next person says, when you're confronted with gossip, is it best just to walk away?
Yes. Okay, it is best just to walk away.
Okay, Yanni wants to know, question, Yahweh is with you in battle. The priests say, because of the time difference, do I need to call Rabbi? I didn't realize that was a question. It seems like an incomplete question.
Okay, probably the person's wondering how they can work it out with time zones and stuff.
Gotcha.
The best thing to do, and we're going to try to get this to work out better, is to, as I get more clear on sort of a personal assistant type of thing, having somebody have an email they can email if they want to counsel with me. And then that person will get a response back with availability and how we can schedule it using WhatsApp or Zoom or some other technology to I don't mind the time zones. I take calls 24/7 if necessary, okay? This is the job and I understand that. But you can't reach me directly because otherwise people will just be calling. And by the way, if you ever got a call back in the past and it was from my cell phone, please never use that unless it's an emergency. I only called you from my cell phone because I wasn't at work. I didn't have a way to do it any other way so that I wouldn't just give out my number to everybody, okay? But it's not for social interaction. Okay, if you want to social interact, call the number, say, I'd like to get to know Rabbi, let him get to know me, see if we could schedule some time to do that. Try it that way. But by the way, if you're sending me stuff through Facebook Messenger, I'm not looking at it almost ever. If you're sending me stuff through email, I can't get to it, all right? If you're sending me stuff through anything, there's almost no way to reach me except to call. If you call, I do call people back. I do keep the counseling meetings. I do talk to people. I'm doing better than I did in the past. I've been trying to make it more accessible that way, all right? So for right now, if you need to reach me, you could try it you could ask Manny to try to reach me. You could try Ops, which is David Hayes' one, or you could try George, which is george.vera at MTOI. You could try, we'll get it worked out. We may just make a separate email that's just called counseling or something. It might be the best way to do it, and then have that monitored by George or somebody to let me know, if you need something, okay? But realize if you're going to send me an email, especially if I do ever find it, and it's got 4 or 5 screens worth of stuff, I am ADD extreme. That will never get read, okay? Nothing personal, but it would be torture for me to sit and read that. Okay, that's why when the 5-page, 6-page document comes from the state of Tennessee about COVID-19, I have George read it and tell me what I need to know, and then I skim for the bullet points. I could not read 6 pages straight through. It's a handicap, okay? So if you got to give me the whole history of your background to explain something, I'm going to struggle with that. If you call me, by the way, let me help you with counsel. Please do not immediately share the whole background of your problem unless I ask you for it. First, start off telling me the problem. Then I will ask you for what parts I think I need of the background. Okay, and I'll let you share what you think I need to know with the background. But don't start with the background. Start with the problem. Okay, what's the problem? I think my husband cheated on me and I want a divorce. What's the problem? I think that, I'm suffering mightily from depression and I don't know how to function. Don't give me the whole history of to start with first. Tell me the problem. Okay? I think my boss is going to fire me because I'm not working Saturdays. Okay, tell me more about how that's going about and tell me. Let's work it that way. Start off, I'm very blunt red. Okay, if you know the color code thing, right? Start right off with a red and tell them right off the front, this is the issue. First sentence, hi, how are you? Great, what's the problem? Okay? You have to understand, there's 800 of you on the computers right now logged on. I get lots of calls every day. I spend hours a day calling back people and talking to people in counseling. I don't have time to go beyond just give me the problem, let me give you the solution, and move on to the next person. There's not a lot of warm fuzzies with that. I get that, and I'm sorry. There's not enough time for the warm fuzzies right now. We're hoping that Abba will bring us more people who are shepherds. They will sit there and hold your hand and give you all the warm fuzzies you want. Okay? Not my position. I don't have the time to do that. I'm sorry. Besides, if I did, I'm terrible at it. So just, okay, let me get you somebody who's actually good at it and let them give you the warm fuzzies. Okay? It's not my strength. What my strength is, though, is that I see a problem, understand it, and come up with a solution quickly and effectively for what's going on with what you're dealing with. That is my skill set. To understand and provide a solution. Okay? If you're just looking to have a listening ear that can understand and hear your problem, go to some of the ladies in the ladies groups. That's what ladies are better at. Talk to them, let them commiserate with you, let them hear your thing. I'm only about what's broken and how can I fix it. Okay? Just trying to help out. So when you counsel with me, because I know a lot of you say, well, can Rabbi call me back? I want him to get to know me. I want to get to know him. I don't have a lot of time for that right now. Okay? People have really serious issues that need to be addressed. That I have to make time for. Okay? And don't take it personally. It's not that I don't want to get to know you. It's just that I don't really care to get to know you. I'm not a people person that way. So it's not a callous, cold, hard-hearted, whatever. I'm just not social that way. Okay? Okay, if you ever see me in a large group of people and you walk over and you see that, or it looks like I've been sitting there a long time and talking a lot, if you walk over, you'll hear that I'm actually doing my thing. I'm ministering 99% of the time. It's not just social chit-chat. All right, unless I turn on entertainer mode and then I'm just making them all laugh. But even then, it's not social chit-chat, okay? I'm not good at it. I don't enjoy it. I don't know how to do it. So I apologize. That's an apology, really. I'm trying to say, please forgive me. If that's what you need, I'm not going to be able to provide it probably. Okay? If you see me privately and you want to take a shot at it, take a shot at it. I'm just telling you I'm not very good at it. Okay, go ahead.
Oh, you're great at it. Everybody call him right now and connect.
You're fired.
Oh, Olivia and Janet Hoffman says, amen. What a wonderful teaching. Just want to encourage Rabbi. We fully trust in you and are thankful for all he does for us. See the fruits, and we see the fruits, and we know you are our appointed anointed.
Appreciate that. What I want, though, is I want all of you that are giving the encouraging comments to be ready and armored and geared up when all this junk comes your way. Because you will have that, this stuff will come your way.
Some people are worried. They're saying, Rabbi, please don't throw away the tree because of a few bad apples.
I'm not going to quit on you.
Apparently, neither is Regina. She says, no matter what anyone says about this ministry, I will not leave.
Appreciate that. Of course, I've heard those kind of things and the people leave. I believe Regina. I'm just saying is, that's the kind of stuff, though. Now, a lot of people say it and don't leave. But it's amazing how the people that do leave say that kind of thing, too, and then they leave, you know. And not only that, most of the people that have left are people that literally uprooted their whole lives to move here and then left. I'm like, really? You took your whole life, moved here, only to leave. You need to be like Manny. He moved here, and he isn't going anywhere.
I burned my ships. That's
there
why.
you go. There you go. And by the way, some of those people have tried to get him and his wife, and he just looked at them like, oh, no, you don't understand. I'm here for what Rabbi's doing. He said, so, you know.
Pretty much. Probably my face of disgust, too. Didn't help.
Probably.
Yeah, it won't go well. Let's see. Rick Berry would like to know, can Rabbi please address Proverbs 6:16 in relation to today's teaching?
I could have gone there, I guess. Okay, so Proverbs 6:16 is the 6 things Yahweh hates, the 7th is an abomination, they're causing strife. I'll just mark it down, and I'll add it to one of the days when we'll cover it even more. But it's a big part of the whole Lashon Hara thing. It's you know, there's. Did I do a teaching that was just on Proverbs 6:16? Right, there's a teaching on that. So wow, it's been a while. Right, so the 6 things Yahweh hates is what I call it, right? And the 7th is an abomination. So everybody should be listening to that. It's a big part of this. But that's, again, you know. And by the way, if you want this job, you have to be able to do things like someone says Proverbs 6:16. You have to already know what they're talking about. I mean, you know, you just got to be able to know these things. That's a hard part of the job, too, because you got to put that stuff in there and know where that is. But, you know, those 6 things are exactly what you see happening in Numbers 13 here with the spying out the land, you know. Feet, swift to run to do evil, and you know, tongue blaring out lies and all this other stuff. I mean, it's all of that stuff. So, absolutely. I always like when Rick says things and he's sitting right there. Okay.
And he knew what teaching you were talking about.
Yeah, he did know what teaching I was talking about. He was just trying to throw me a soft lob in there. I know the guys like to lob me in an easy one that's just going to be able to, here's an easy one for everybody. Go ahead.
Okay, Selena Stevenson would like to tell you 2 things. 1, we love you. And then 2, Numbers 13, Yahweh loved them enough to keep them in the wilderness their whole lives so they could work on their heart issues. Does this happen to us today?
One of the things that needs to be be addressed is, and I'm going to write it down so I don't forget, if you don't figure this out, the punishment is being made to stay in the wilderness. You're trying to enter the land. If you can't figure out how to properly trust him and get in line with structure, his structure, guess where you go? You go back to school. The wilderness is school. You're going to go back to school and try to learn how to figure this out. Learning how to trust him and trust his structure. That's where you go. So yes, that is the result. Selena's correct. Okay? You don't listen, you don't trust, you don't see the way he wants you to see it. Guess what? Go have fun for a while in the wilderness.
Okay, I'm going to jump all the way down to this one because I think this person misunderstood something you said today. A person is asking, at a different service, Rabbi didn't want us to engage with people who slander and lie about him and MTOI. Today he says to engage. I would just like some direction because I'd be more than happy to.
No. When I say engage, I mean when they're engaging you, now you have a better way to know how to engage properly. You're either going to say, I'm not interested and walk away, or you can actually push the issue a little bit and say, where'd you get that from? Where did you hear it? Do you have any evidence and proof of it? I mean, what is this going on, you know? But mostly you say things like, have you addressed Rabbi directly? And just when they say yes, you want to then push it further. You can always just do nothing. When I say engage, meaning I don't think that people should be socially, on a regular basis, interacting with people that are doing these things. I know you had friendships before they left. And I don't want to sound cultish like you could only be friends with people who are in. But the people that left, if they are actively attacking or doing now, you might say, well, they never do that when I'm with them. Well, maybe they don't do it when you're with them. But if they're doing it, they're still doing it. And just the fact that they don't do it around you doesn't mean they're not doing it. You need to know whether or not they're doing it. And you shouldn't be engaging with people that are actively doing Lashon Hara, that are trying to convince people to feel negatively about other people. Okay? All right, go ahead.
Let's see, Pete and Brenda Lamb, question. I'm hoping that the lesson from Deuteronomy 20, verses 5 through 8, is to seek counseling when we feel overwhelmed and not to give up if our hearts aren't fully committed. Is this right?
Yes, that's correct.
Libby would like to know, Numbers 13:20. This is interesting to me because it had me remembering that it was at the grape harvest, also in Matthew 21:34 through 36, that these attempts at usurping authority was happening.
I didn't know if there was a comment necessary.
Okay.
That was just a comment that was made there, so I was quiet.
Okay, I never know if you're thinking.
Yeah, no,
okay.
Sorry, there was just
Good.
no comment there.
No problem. Paul says,
I appreciate the person's observation. I mean, they thought it was cool that there was a connection between these things.
correct. Yeah.
Okay.
Paul would like to know. He said, "I've always been a sponge for knowledge, especially for the true meaning of the word. I have an idea, but what is Omer?"
I was going to tell you how many, parts of an ephah it is, but I don't think that would help you. Okay, it's an amount of the grain that you would be bringing to the priest to wave. It's simply a measurement of grain. So we would use things like a cup of flour, okay? Or we'd use like a gallon of something liquid. This is the way they measured. We look at grains, we see things like bushel. Well, back then they used omer and ephah. So it was a biblical measurement. So probably if you have certain types of Bibles, go to the back of your book and it tells you what those things are, okay? But it's simply the amount of grain, that you would bundle together. A certain amount makes an omer, a certain amount makes an ephah, okay?
Chris would like to say, Rabbi/MTOI, can't thank Yah enough for this ministry. Seems lately like subjects are close to personal situations, but thank you so much for all you do.
Okay, you're welcome.
And Christine would like to know, it's regarding authority. If we are to respect government authority, when does that change if constitutional rights are being affected and people need to stand up? Do lawsuits, protests, etc., health, education, freedom, civil rights, etc.?
Okay, Excellent question. And the answer is you should be looking toward your leadership to know when. Okay? All right? I think of the line from Patrick Swayze in Roadhouse, when he was training the bouncers and he said, be nice. And they said, well, what about this? He says, you will be nice until I tell you when it's time not to be nice. Okay? Well, this has nothing to do with being nice. It has to do with trusting the leadership to decide what's appropriate here. We want to respect leadership and authority in the government around us, but if that gets to a point where it's infringing on Torah or any of the other observances beyond a level of whatever, where we'd have to know what the threshold is, we will help you with that. So sometimes people will contact us and ask us things like, this happened, should I sue? Is that something that's, look, you should utilize the system that's available to you. If you have a legitimate lawsuit, you can have a lawsuit. If you have a legitimate thing that you can file a grievance about, you should file a grievance about it, and you can call for some guidance with that. But the point is, and we do have some people on staff that are attorneys, that are not so much on staff, but we have on sort of a retainer basis that are attorneys here in the state of Tennessee that we can access for questions like that. So they're not part of MTOI per se, but they're available, like readily available if we need anything to know on a legal basis, and we can, point you in a direction for that or point you to the attorneys in your area. But when it comes to, for example, if the government makes certain decisions that they are leaning towards, we may have to take a stand to protest or come up against that. At some point in the future, that may happen. Okay? We've been compliant up to this point because we want to choose our timing of our battles very carefully. Okay? All right? We're not here to cause any issues with the government, we're not here to cause anything with anything, but if they put it to a point where they say, let's say they said, you cannot have any more worship services, you can't provide nothing. Well, that could be a problem. Now, the Constitution protects that, but, what if the government decided to overstep that? The Constitution gives us rights to protest against that too. Okay? So we have to just make sure we're doing everything, in a correct manner. And if you're not sure, that's what the structure is there for. Okay? Now let me kind of point out something else that goes back to what we said during the teaching, but also fits here. You should absolutely value full-time ministry. You should value that your funds, your tithes, your offerings, make it possible that when you need somebody, they're reachable anytime. I know there are people that when I call them, they will not pick up the phone because they're at their job, and they can't take calls at their job, or they can't take calls on the shift that they're on or whatever it is. You need to know that you can reach somebody at MTOI all the time, and you can. That is the key. Now, that means that the person cannot have a different job. They need to be available to do this all the time. You should be praying that all of the congregations affiliated with us eventually get to the point where they could support a full-time leadership person. Because you need that. Now, praise Yah, you don't need it every day. That's, by the way, a praise for me and for you. If you guys needed it every day, it would overwhelm us, but it's also for you. But when you do need it, and some of you are thinking, well, blah, 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 because you've never needed it. But when you do, I promise you it will not always come at a convenient time for you or the ministry person. I got a call, I don't remember, it was sometime last week, at 11:30 or 12:30, it was late. And my first words to the person was, just to be sure, I said, is this an emergency? And they said, yes, it is. I said, okay, what's your emergency? Because occasionally there are people that call just because they just think I'm available all the time, and they think, well, he's up, I'll just call. I want you guys to stop that. Under normal hours is when you should be calling, not just knowing my normal hours go late. Okay, because my phone still will ring and make noise in my house. Okay? And that means, like, if you try to Facebook call me or WhatsApp call me, whatever, let's try to keep it under normal hours, which is between 9 a.m. and 9 p.m., wherever you are. I mean, wherever I am, where I am, you got to know my hours. And actually, I'm not up at 9, so you can forget that. Start at 11. Okay? but understand that you need full-time ministry. And full-time ministry means somebody has to be able to give them the financial support so that they can pay their bills, not needing a regular secular job, so they could be available to you. I mean, these teachings don't just happen because I just show up and just start talking. I had to sit at home and read the verses and go through the verses and come up with the pieces of the puzzle that make the picture about peace in a world not his. That takes hours of work. Look, you're watching right now and you watch the videos because Marty puts in, I don't even know how many hours, but I'm sure it's way more than I pay him for, to make those things for you. He could not do that and have a different job. As a matter of fact, he tried at the beginning. He had a different job, and he tried to help us too, and it just can't do it. The burden of the amount of work that's necessary to provide the tools that you need require him full-time on this job. Okay? Requires Manny available full-time to handle the social media and the CDs and the marketplace. It requires an operations director to handle things David Hayes does. It requires an accounting person to handle all of the things. The functionality that you need requires staffing. And praise Yah, he put in a system that provides funds for that. And so there you have it. Those funds that you send in provide my wife, who doesn't, just do nothing. My wife works the same amount of hours I do, probably more, putting together the Partial Pearls program. And that's a full-time job. She used to make very good money as a hygienist. But now, she does this. And she puts in full hours, developing the programming, coordinating with the talent that supports the work she's doing, and putting the thing together. You need these people, or at least you will someday, but you're already benefiting from them. You don't even realize how much you're benefiting from them. I mean, it's like the nonsense when someone said, well, I don't know why we put any money in the box. Rabbi only works a couple hours on Saturday. I'm going to be in 6 hours of meetings tomorrow straight from 10 a.m. till about 4 p.m. I don't get paid any more for that. I don't get paid by the hour. If I got paid by the hour, the ministry couldn't afford me. I'm serious. I mean, just no way. And if Marty got paid by the hour, I couldn't afford him. We put in this because it's a work of love and support of what we're trying to do. Okay, we don't do this to make a living. We make a living out of it so that we can actually live while we're doing this. Somehow that's got to sink in. Just the willingness of somebody like me to sit here and answer your questions for an hour after every teaching. Where do you ever get that anywhere? That's not bragging. I do it because you need it. And if you could find this any other way anywhere else, you'd go get it there, but you can't, so you're here. I'm just being honest with you. So you support that so that we can continue to provide these things for you. A lot of ministries could have shut down over the support going down without having the offering box going around, etc. Praise Yah, you guys continue to support. And also because we've made good fiscal decisions, financial decisions, we had enough in reserve to pay for all the things that need to be paid for going forward for a good little bit of time. So we had no worries about losing the building or losing anything. That's because we're trying to be responsible stewards of the money that you guys send in. Do you understand that? It's because I know a lot of people were worried. I wonder if the ministry is going to have to. I needed to make sure that doesn't mean stop sending. I mean, you do what you do because it's between you and him. Okay? But what I'm telling you is that we could have nothing come in and be okay for a good long time because we have that money in reserve in case anything adverse happens. So that we're not like any ministry. How many times have you heard and you're just sick and tired of hearing ministries begging for money, otherwise they're going to have to shut down, close the doors, lose their TV contract, whatever it is. You will never hear that from us. You will never hear that from us. Yahweh will either continue to make sure we have enough, or if we don't, that means he doesn't want us doing it anymore and we'll just stop. Okay? We're never going to ask you to mitigate what he's causing or allowing. I've actually had to tell ministries that used to solicit to me, Messianic ministries, red alert, they're going to, bankrupt us and foreclose my house and everything else. And I had to tell them, knock it off. Where's your faith? If Yah wanted you to do this full time, then he'd have paid you. He obviously hasn't paid you. Go get a job. And I got immediately taken off that person's list, which is fine. But I told them, you're embarrassing all of us that are doing this for a living, so to speak, who we trust that Yah is providing, or we go do something else. If the money doesn't come in, I will very, I don't want to say gladly, I will have no problem going and doing something else. Okay? So I am personally disappointed in the ministries that have to beg for money. Where's their faith, or where's their recognition that the one that they're supposedly working for is chosen not to pay them? I mean, when I first explained this model to Marty, he's like, this is really different and new for me. He said he'd never heard that before, Because he was used to working for ministries and figuring out how much he would be able to increase their bottom line in terms of CD sales and DVD sales because of how much better he could make their stuff. And he was like, well, how am I supposed to figure out how much I'm helping your ministry when you don't sell anything? Well, we figured out we're able to notice the amount of people that are subscribed to the YouTube channel and are watching on the live stream as a way to measure that, because he has a lot to do with that. But it's a different model, okay? Being fiscally responsible and understanding that we work for him, not for you. And that's the same thing the other way around. Your money isn't going to us, it's going to him. I don't know how else to make that clear. All right, go ahead.
Okay, somebody would like to know, Rabbi Steve, if I talk to my husband about someone or something that happened before speaking to the person involved, is this what I should not do?
No. There's the one exception to the you must talk to the person that you're having a problem with is that you can go to get counsel before you do, okay? Because maybe you don't know if you're going to approach it right, if you're going to be calm enough, if you know what, you may need counsel before you do. So if you're married, you can go to your spouse. If your spouse, is someone that would understand what's going on, because maybe your spouse isn't in the same belief that you are, so it may be challenging there if it's about this walk. But you can get counsel first. What you don't do is just talk to everybody else about it. The only two people that you should be talking to about an issue you have with anybody is the person you have the issue with or someone you're getting counsel about it. Okay, next question.
Somebody would like to know, can leadership claim they do not have to follow Matthew 18 to go to you with their offense? They can come to me instead because I am the boss. Does the authority allow leaders to usurp biblical instruction, or should leaders turn the person back to their brother or sister and follow biblical principle and teachings despite their to usurp it if they want to?
Okay, I think I understood the sort of way that came across. Look, there is no usurping, period, okay? If somebody comes to me about a problem with somebody, my first thing I want to know is, did they approach them? Have they talked to them? What are they doing about it? Or if they're looking for help on how to approach them. They should not be usurping. We should be going through the Matthew 18 structure process. Okay? The difference being only in one of the things stepwise. After the first step, okay, now that because you've already gone up to the leadership, which is to get counsel. If you go to your brother and he won't hear you, then you can come back to the leadership and ask leadership if they may be there as a witness or how they can go. So it's not usurping anything. It's sort of consolidating the steps a little bit. All right? But you're going to the leadership to find out what you can do. The leadership should still require you to have to go back to your brother. Unless it's unsafe for you to do, then the leadership can go with you to help you deal with your brother. Okay? But no, we should not be doing any usurping. Okay? And by the way, Matthew 18 is not a Torah command, it's a guideline. Now, it's coming from Yeshua, so it's a really good guideline. Okay? But it's guidance, it's not a mandate. But he does say, this is the way that it's appropriate to do this. Go do it this way and things will work out better. All right, he's telling us the right way to do it. All right, go ahead.
Okay, we have a question here in reference to Deuteronomy 14:3. They want to know if Nehemiah 9:16 and 17 is a reference to Israel returning to bondage.
Nehemiah what?
9:16 and 17.
Well, I mean, it's basically, this is a history lesson that includes the golden calf and some of these other things. And it really is basically talking about the compassion that Yah had throughout this process and some of the dumb choices that people made. And yes, this is what you see with Korach and other places where they want to appoint a leader to do different things with them. And then it comes, look, you see this right away with Aaron and the golden calf and Moses being away, that they're looking to appoint a leader, they're looking to make other decisions, and that ends up putting them into some greater sense of bondage to some degree.
James would actually like to know, while living without a Torah community and without leadership, how do I, to the best of my ability, take what and apply what you teach in my life?
Say it one more time.
While living without a Torah community and without leadership,
Right.
how do I, to the best of my ability, take and apply what you teach in my life?
Well, look, 99% of what I teach you is stuff that you would be walking out yourself individually in your days, and you do that the best you can. And you do have a Torah community, you just don't have it physically around you. You can call and contact and interact with us. If this is a guy, then you can get into the men's Marco Polo. You get the ladies into the ladies Marco Polo. You have a community to walk with. You could be on the Facebook group and interact with people to some degree. We do have the interaction that you're doing right now. So you do actually have a community. It's just more virtual than you would maybe prefer it to be. But all of this is, again, this is the big question that people have to understand the answer to. Your walk is individual in the context of a bigger thing, a community. So your walk is always individual. You must walk out your salvation, Philippians 2:12. You have to walk that out, all right? So how do you do it? In fear and trembling. You have to take the information, okay? It's like the person who said they're like a sponge, okay? You know what? I got a sponge. I soak it full of water. I put some soap on it, and that's completely useless unless I do something with it. Okay? It absorbed everything. It's got the water and the soap. Now what? I got to find a way to apply it to something. Okay? So you have to go get out there and do it. If you know what to do, do it. If you don't know what to do, get counsel so you know what to do.
Olivia and Janet Hoffman, Numbers 13:30. Caleb had full emunah. He was certain they would conquer the land, but he was no one of the few. What can we learn he did to achieve this level of emunah? Hope that made sense.
Okay, so I don't think first of all, it doesn't tell us anything about his life up to this point. Okay, so we don't know anything about that. I don't want to sound Christian, but he believed. He believed what he saw and what he heard and what he understood from the Creator. He believed. Okay? This is the difference between belief with action and belief without action. Okay? There are those that believe on or believe about Messiah having existed and dying and resurrected and all that other stuff, and that's informational belief. So all these 10 that spied the land, they had the information. They were there in Egypt. They saw what Yah did. They experienced it. They understood it. They witnessed it, etc. But they didn't believe their own eyes and their own experiences enough to then trust and move forward and take the action. Caleb and Joshua simply believed. And that's the whole thing, is by belief. Okay, in Hebrews 11, it says, by belief these guys do the different things that they do. And I believe, give me a second here. They're not listed in here. It would be cool if they would have been listed in here, because I would have said that by belief, they spied the land and saw what was good. But it was by belief, just like the rest of these people. By belief, they took an action. So what was the difference? They took what they experienced and this is the same thing with you. You experience, he intervenes in your life, he does the things he does, and then you take that and now you believe him. You don't believe about him only, you don't believe on him, you believe him. See, that's the difference. Caleb got to the place where he believed what Yah said. That's your covenant. I'm going to do what he said because I believe him. I believe that what he says will come to pass, and what he says will happen exactly the way he says it. And if he says, if I do this, this, and this, these good things will happen, and if I do this, this, and this, these bad things will happen, I believe him. So the difference was Caleb believed him. Okay? And what's the difference? Character. The character inside to deal with the fear.
Christine wants to say, I can attest to Rabbi's desire in serving/helping as many people as possible. The children/families at our academy are all welcome, with or without financial capabilities, thanks to benevolence options.
I appreciate that. You know, one of the things that was tough when we started the academy was that we knew that using the homeschool program that we were using was very expensive. But I made it clear to everybody involved that we would not turn away anybody. Now, here was the hard part. So you're not going to like this. This is what's going to start it all up again. The hard part was I said that if you needed benevolence, if you couldn't afford the program, then you needed to sit with me and review your situation so that you could actually start figuring out how to fix your financial problem. And most people were either embarrassed, I should say most, some of the people were embarrassed or just didn't want to deal with all their stuff, so they just decided not to come to the academy. There were a few that did that. Others decided to come, and they had to sit with me and go through that humbling experience of actually addressing the real problem. You know, it's like the person doesn't want to go to the dentist because they're afraid they're going to find out they got a cavity or they're going to need a root canal. Well, you're still going to need it anyway, but you don't want to go to find out. And so we put that in there, but we made it clear anybody that wanted to come would be able to come regardless of their financial ability to pay, but I wanted to be able to help. That was the reason I required the humbling experience of the financial meeting, was so that I could help you finally address and fix your financial problem. But thank you, Christine, for bringing that up, because that has been part of the policies here. You know, and Manny can tell you, and others can tell you, when anything push comes to shove, I say mail it for free, take it, ship it to them, do this, do that. We mail out a lot of CDs to people that are either no longer at the address, no longer want them, whatever, but they've never told us, and we're just wasting money sending it, but we send it just in case it's getting to the right person because we don't know. We always try to go over on the side of, go over onto the side of, if it could possibly benefit, we make it available. So we give it away if we can give it away. Period. That has always been the thing, to a fault. And yet, you're not hearing that from the people attacking me, are you? No. Okay? You're not hearing that, literally we mail out 600 plus people 6 CDs every week all over the world, which I don't know how many $1,000 that costs a month to send out. Not every week, a month, we do this. And, literally, I think last year, we ended up almost $100,000 spent, 70-something thousand, whatever it was, spent just on CDs we mail away for free. Now, I normally wouldn't mention that to you because I don't want a pat on the back for that. But you, who participated in sending in your stuff, that's part of what you did. You made it possible to send out for free. When you think about when someone asks for, and we get this often enough, all the CDs, and we stick them in a box or two this size, okay? And people on the afterward going, what's this size mean? Well, I've got my hands about almost 2 feet apart, okay? And we mail all the teachings to somebody for free. Imagine what a ministry would ask for that. I mean, the Heart of Matter alone is 64 parts. That would be like $500 or something for most ministries. Because, after all, a 2-part, 3-part thing, they're going to want $20, $30 as a suggested offering. Or a love offering. How many of you love offering that anyway? Do you love when you have to offer to buy something? For your love offering of? Dumb. Okay, so, we do these things, and you participate in that. All right? And we just give stuff away as best we can. All right, next.
I could definitely attest to that just because I was so impressed by you when I first started working in your basement. I remember I would take it I would be, it wasn't my money, mind you, but I would get certain letters from people and they weren't specific as to what they wanted. And so I'd always come to you because I didn't want to send them everything. I figured you'd say, well, just send them this one and, see what they do. And I'd show it to you, and without a blink, you'd always say, send them everything. And I'm like, everything? Are you sure? Like, you see where they live? You're like, yeah, go ahead and box it up. Send them everything. And so I would always feel guilty about overspending. And I just finally got used to your generosity. You just always didn't care. You gave. You always gave everything, every CD. If they weren't specific, they got everything, the whole collection. And it is 2 boxes. So
I appreciate that. Look, but again, the main point is that's not what you're going to hear from other people. Okay? And you need to hear it. Let me tell you how this is paid back. Let me give you an example. When I went on my 7-year journey, all right, and I came back in 2010, and I called up a really good friend of mine who has now passed away. His name is Dominic, all right, Dominic Zangla. And I said to Dominic, I'm trying to find a place to relaunch on my ministry. Do you know anybody that would like let me speak? And I'll tell my story about my journey and the whole thing. And he said, let's make a call or two. And he called me back. He said, the guy who leads our congregation, he said yes. And he said, you know why he said yes? Because he remembered that in 2001, he was at a conference and he came by your table and he was picking up a handful of tapes. It was tapes back then of your teachings. And you saw what he was doing, and you looked over and said, well, actually, if you're going to listen to that, you really need this and this and this also. And the guy said, well, I don't want to buy those too. I said, don't worry about it. And I just handed it to him and said, but you need them anyway. And I gave him he was getting like 5 tapes, and I gave him like 15 more because I felt he needed them to go with the 5. Okay, and we were asking people like, I don't know, $1 a tape or whatever we were asking for that then to help offset the cost, because tapes were expensive at that point. And the booth, we're in the marketplace there. But I gave the guy a bunch more, like a bag full of tapes. Well, he remembered that generosity, and that's the only reason why we're standing here today, at least, is that was the first place I got to speak when I came back. And that was 9 years later. But he remembered that. He was getting like 5. I think he was going to give me $5 for the 5, and I gave him another 8 or 10 or 15 to go with it. And that's just the way I always have been. I've always been that way. And so, but you're not going to hear that, You're not going to hear that. Okay, go ahead.
I wanted to repeat what Rob Wyatt said online. Rabbi would always say to the staff about feeding everybody at the feast, feed them well, was always his response. I love that.
Oh, okay. So back to that. So we used to host a feast site where we would basically do our own cooking. All right? And so we charged very small amounts. I think we charged $10 a day to eat 3 meals. Okay? And for that, we had to figure out how to get all the food, cook it, and make it available to everybody for $10 a day. Okay? It was for an adult. I think it was basically, I think it was that. I think it was like $10 a day. It was like $4 for dinner, $3 for lunch, and $2 for breakfast, something like that. We were first doing it. And they asked me, well, what the budget was for the meals. I said, there's no budget. Feed them well. Well, how much came in? I have no idea. Feed them well. Did we lose money on the food? I have no idea. That's what I told my wife. She was in charge of that area. And I said, I don't care. Because she was always concerned was, did we take in enough money to pay for the food? I said, just feed them well. Make enough food so that nobody doesn't have enough. And we always had everybody's favorite night, which was leftover night, because we always made too much. So we always had one night where we had all the leftovers from the other nights, and everybody loved that night. It was great. Leftover night was awesome. But it was about, I don't worry about trying to figure out, okay, we collected this much money for each meal. Let's only buy enough food. And if this happens, and just feed them well. I don't want anybody to not have had enough. I don't want to run out by the time the line goes through. There needs to be enough. So I appreciate that Rob remembers that, all right? Because
Okay.
you know why? Because I trust him that he will put enough money in the offering box to offset whatever we lost money every feast. Okay? I promise you we lost money every feast. But we never lost money, meaning we didn't have enough money in the box to offset what we lost in terms of what we charged people. You know, for the housing, we helped people with benevolence. For the food, we helped people with benevolence. Whatever it was, I know we lost money every feast. But there was always enough in the box during the feast to offset all of that. That was Yah providing. Okay?
Okay, I know we're running late, so I'll end with this one. Here's a comment from Rabbi Tom. In Bidmidbar 14, Yahweh wanted to destroy the people. What kept him from doing so was Moshe's pleading for them. They never realized they owed their lives to Moshe's compassion for them.
Amen. And actually that's a good lead-in because that's the next verse that we need to read next week. Or when the next time, either next week or the week after, but that's the next verse in chapter 14 is Moses and Aaron's reaction to fall on their faces when they hear the people doing this. Okay?
Beautiful.
And so beautifully said and beautifully done. Appreciate that very much, Rabbi Tom. All right, so that's going to wrap this up. Okay?